What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with another episode of Coin Mastery TV. Make sure that you go sign up for the newsletter at coinmastery.com/invest. And be sure to go subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already at coinmastery.com/YouTube. Be a subscriber. Very exciting. Back on Monday, we're back in the office. And today we're talking about some very exciting news. Bitcoin touched $4,300 this morning. Right now it is approximately 10:56 a.m. Pacific time on Monday, August 14th. We're starting with that. Today we're talking a lot about Bitcoin and what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, at least what I think is going to happen and why I think it's going to happen that way. We're going to talk a little bit about DNT and how that's unfolded from last week. Many of you guys bought in, many of you sat back and watched. Totally cool, but we're just going to look at that and see what forces are causing the prices to move. And then I'm going to just show you guys a couple interesting pieces of news that something to think about, right? We always like to just look at the bigger picture about trends and potential opportunities. And then I want to share something that many people, myself included, will get a lot of value out of in terms of selling at the bottom to buy money into Bitcoin, which is partly why we're driving the prices. So it's opening up. We're opening it up right now. Looking at the trusty crypto watch. Two stories. Obviously, the first story is 4,300, which is coming back from that a little bit. But we'll dive into this a little bit more. Second story is Ethereum, which popped a little bit yesterday up to like the 306 area, and now it's coming back down a little bit. For what it's worth, I think that Ethereum is going to have a pretty good run in the next few weeks. I think that there's a good string of ICOs coming out that are all going to be using Ethereum. We know what happens when you get a lot of ICOs to Ethereum's price. I also think that it's got a lot of pent up. Not demand, but there's just a lot of money that's got to flow somewhere, and I think that Ethereum is the next place after Bitcoin to give people a little bit more of the upside, but a little bit less of the parabolic, growth curve, which for most investors is actually kind of terrifying, as much as it's exciting. So I've been buying a little bit of ETH. You may have seen on Twitter, I had a great run this past weekend. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I bought and what I sold and what I did, how I kind of went through it, my thought process of that. But I've been accumulating a little bit of Ethereum through that process. And I didn't spend all the free cash I had because I think that this what we're seeing right now is going to continue for a few days. I think that we're going to see altcoin prices start to stabilize and maybe come up a little bit, but they're not going to pop anytime soon, because I think Bitcoin is still, or BTC is still going to run the show for a little while longer, maybe up to like 4,600 or something like that. But we'll walk through that. But that's really the name of the game. Litecoin's been interesting. I love Litecoin. I think Charlie Lee's awesome. Last week I talked about how the price of Litecoin was really going down. Like everything, all the prices last week. It was kind of I don't know what you call it, like a fake out, because when BTC is going up so much and all the prices are going down, technical analysis really kind of goes out the window, because it's such a force that is just so outside of the levels of variance that is required to do regular analysis. Kind of went out the window. So I think Litecoin, and both Litecoin and Monero, have been pretty rock solid in terms of fiat, not solid in terms of BTC conversion, which makes sense. But that's been something that I've noticed. It's also made me kind of question why am I still keeping Litecoin, right? I bought it originally because obviously it was part of Coinbase, and I knew that was going to be a big spike. It was also a hedge against Bitcoin. With Bitcoin Cash available now, with Bitcoin doing really well, I'm starting to wonder why I still have all this Litecoin. I'm not selling it yet, but I'm starting to wonder why it is. And that's always a good thing to remember. Like, why are you holding what you're holding, right? Like, what's the thesis? Why does it still hold true? Okay, so let's go over to Bitcoin. Now, there's a few things. Actually, this morning, Bittrex kind of had a kind of a hiccup. Their database went down, which was a little sketchy, but they're back up. As always, Bittrex is a great service. I really like, not endorsed, no paid, nothing. I just really like their service. They do a great job. And let me talk about what happened this weekend. Now, if you guys are on Twitter and you follow me, the whole thing that I did this weekend, which I actually didn't do a whole lot. I made a few buys and a few sells. I just bought the dips on the what do you call it, the coins that were already doing really well, right? So Neo, and I'm logged in right now, so I'm not gonna log in here because that just gets kind of sketchy. But like Neo, OMG, 10x. What the heck is this? A pop-up. Neo, OMG, 10x, which I'll talk about specifically, Civic, and Stratus, right? Those are all things that I already owned. I already believe in them. I've already done my research, and they were just getting worked by the prices of Bitcoin. I mean, still are. Like, look at the prices right now. So they were getting massively depressed. To me, that's a good sign because I know that they have the strength. I know that they were doing really well before this kind of BTC thing started crushing them. So that when the BTC thing stops crushing them, the chances of them going back up are way higher than some random coin, you know, that I have not done the research on, that I don't know much about, that doesn't really have the momentum that these other coins have. And so I think one thing that I was doing differently than that a lot of other people weren't doing, I shouldn't say, I think a lot of other people are doing this too, but a lot of the public facing people in the crypto world is that they're like, prices are at an all-time low. Here's where you can get that crazy deal on, I mean, you go to like page 3 of this, like, let's go get this deal on BITB or, you know, IOP, like any of these ridiculous, like coins that are just complete crapshoot. These are total lotto tickets, right? At least on Bittrex. I don't know. Maybe they have more volume somewhere else. But a lot of these guys are like, look how cheap this is now. You know, you can get the deal of a lifetime, and this is going to turn into something huge. I don't think that that's a good strategy, right? This is what I wrote in the newsletter, right? Like, all about sticking with the winners, buying the ones that already are proven, and just wait for them to go down in price. And that is what I did. So with Neo, it went down to 83 or 84, and I bought in there, and it went up, and you know, I sold some at like 120. Same with OMG, it went down to 142, 143. I bought in, it went up to 175, and sold some on the profit there using that same spreadsheet. Now the one that was interesting was 10x, right? I've been doing a lot of research on 10x. I figured if there's any ever a good time to buy, so I bought a little bit. I should say I put in, I think like a 10 Ethereum worth of 10x. But here's what I did. I'm not going to open that up, but I'm going to open up Quantum, right? I've not done research on Quantum. I've heard good things, but I don't know about this. I'm just going to open this because I have nothing, no trade, history here. But here's what happened. Right, you can see my very, very slamming BTC available here. Let's say I wanted to buy some Quantum, right? Like today, let's say you are thinking, oh man, this Quantum thing, look at this, 5 bars, by the way, increasing sell volume, looks good, right? But during this whole kind of BTC thing, it's very hard to know what's real and what's not. Let's say you wanted to buy some of this Quantum, right? And you go down and you say, and you see that someone's selling it for 348, right? So you click on that, it automatically fills in, or let's say you own Quantum, right? You just bought it and now you want to sell it. So maybe you go over to the bid price and it automatically fills. And let's say you have 100 quantum, right? I mean, I don't know what it would be. And it would have it here. Now, you don't want to necessarily sell it at this price, but what you do want to do is that if this price keeps going down, you want to be able to put in what's called a stop loss order. What that means is that you're telling Bittrex, hey, if this thing goes down 10%, get rid of it. Because I know I'm going to be emotional, I'm going to be slamming Red Bulls, and I'm going to be like, no, just let it ride, just hold. Never, if you don't sell, you don't lose money, right? Now, in markets like this, when it's very, very volatile, and there's a lot of unknowns, stop loss orders can be really helpful. So what I did with 10X is I bought it, right, at whatever price I bought it at, and then I immediately set a sell order for 10% below the price. I mean, you can do 5%, you can do 10%, whatever it is you want. I put 10% just to give it a little bit of wiggle room. So what you do is you go over this big red button. Typically, you do a limit order, but here you go to conditional. And the condition, you open that up, and then you say it's less than or equal to, and then you take 10% below this, right? So 34, so let's say at 30.785, and you can do the math on that. So what this is telling Bittrex now is that once you bought your 100 quantum, you can put this order in, and it would say, listen, if the price goes down 10%, when it hits that 10% number, execute this order, but not before that. Because if you just did this as a limit order, it's going to sell immediately to the highest bidder. So you would change this as well. And so you're telling Bittrex, I'm going to walk away. If the price keeps falling at 10%, if it falls at 10%, execute this order. Now, if it only goes down 8%, the order won't execute, and maybe it goes up after 8%. But it's giving you a price floor, and that saves you from if it bottoms out, and both from an emotional standpoint and in case you're not at the screen and you can't execute it yourself, or you don't want to get caught up into the moment of it. So I did this with 10X, and at first it kind of just did its thing, and then it went down. I was actually traveling while this happened, so I couldn't really check the prices, and it executed at this stop loss, right, of 10%, and then it went way back up. Yesterday you guys saw, it went up to like 130 or whatever. Where is it? Yeah, it was at like 130,000 Satoshis. And I was like, oh man, I just missed out on all this cash. But then it came back down today, right? And I wasn't at computers. I didn't have the ability to check all this stuff. So in markets like this, setting those stop loss orders can be super helpful, right? What I would recommend doing, honestly, if you are in Bittrex and if you're interested in doing this, is if you own something, like if let's say you owned 10 quantum or any of these coins, try setting one up for like one, right? If you owned 100 quantum, set up an order for one stop loss order and press sell, because if you do it for all of it and you mess it up, you're going to sell all of your stuff like at the market rate, and you're going to be really pissed that you did that. So try it for one, follow, go to the limit, go to conditional, less than or equal to. Greater than or equal to is when you want to do a buy order. We're not doing that. Less than or equal to, that's a stop loss. And then sell it, and it'll hang out here until that price is met. And then you can set up one for all the shares, and you'll be good to go. So I thought that was the first time I really did that on Bittrex. It ended up being a good move, not immediately, but as of today, it ended up being a really good move. So I thought that was helpful. Let's look at DNT. You guys may have remembered last week I talked about just 0x, how it's going kind of a hit or miss on whether or not they're going to get on Bittrex. They did the voting for like that's part of the platform is you can vote if you own some. And the vote actually went that people voted that they want to go on Bittrex. It's unclear if they're actually going to do that because they don't actually have to listen to all the different people. But it's gone up like crazy, and the reason why is because now they're going to get listed on what's it called? Binance, I think it's the new exchange. But the price has gone up like crazy. So if you bought some of this, you took the risk, good on you. If you didn't, that's totally fine. But now you can see how this can have a huge impact when you have a product and you get you get these exchanges, or you get something to list it, and it can really explode the volume. So just keep this in mind, right? I did buy some of this. I bought some of this, I think, at 13, but then I sold a bunch at 22, right? To get back my initial investment, exactly like I talked about that in spreadsheet. So everything else is just for free, and then I may buy in a little bit more because the more I learn about this stuff, the more I really believe in what these guys are doing. So I think it's just really interesting to close the loop on that. Obviously, everyone's going to put in the comments like, is this still a good buy? I think it's worth checking out, but again, wait for these sell-offs to come. They will come. They always come, right? That's when you should buy it. If you like the product, you believe that it's going to be around for a while, just wait for it. Wait for the sell volume to happen, and that's when you buy it, if you're going to buy it. So to me, it's like, yeah, it's a great product. I think it's a great team. I've been very clear about that. If you are going to buy it, all I would tell you to do is wait until the right time. Right? That kind of feeds into the whole idea, which is so critical when markets are going down like this, is that you never want to look at an investment and think about how much money you can make off it, how big it can go. That's what these lotto ticket people are doing. They're looking at stuff and thinking, oh man, this could go so big. This could be so huge. And what really smart investors do is they look at investments and they go, how do I get the best deal on this thing, right? Like, they wouldn't be looking at it if it wasn't going to be a good investment. So if you're looking at stuff and you don't believe it's going to go big, that's probably the first place to start, right? You're always looking for the right deal, the right time to buy. That's what good investors do. That's why we always talk about buy when it gets sold off. Because at the very least, you're following the fundamental tenet of investing, which is buy low, or at least buy as like in a low position, relatively speaking. That's why I never really talk about prices. That's why you never see me kind of trying to tell people if something's good or not, or if a price is the right. Like, it's just about looking at the macro and the micro and making your decision from there. So I like DNT. If you want to get in, the best thing you can do is wait for a sell-off. And even if it keeps going up, it's gonna sell at some point. Maybe not as big as it was, but it will sell, and that's when you follow the fundamentals, follow the tenets. If you really don't want to get FOMO, fear of missing out, buy $50 worth. Right? I think some people forget, myself included, that you can buy small amounts. Right? You don't have to go all in or not. I think some people are like, I got $500. Where should I put it? And I'm always like, well, just spend $100 of it. Don't spend all 500. Just put in a little bit. Just get in the game. Just try it. Just get going. And often it's a huge relief. All right. One thing I wanted to show you guys, and if you're not on Reddit, that's actually probably a good thing. It's kind of a black hole, especially for crypto. But if you don't know who Roger Ver is, I think it's how you pronounce it, Ver, Roger Ver. He was one of the original Bitcoin investors. He is quite a character. I don't know him personally, but from people who I know who have met him, he's a real, whatever. It is what it is. Anyway, he owns a lot of Bitcoin, and he really pioneered Bitcoin Cash. He's really the guy who made Bitcoin Cash a popular and polarized issue. And he continues to be a huge pioneer for Bitcoin Cash. The thing that Roger has that a lot of people underestimate, and one thing that I am definitely paying attention to, is that he understands the investment game. He understands that blockchain and Bitcoin and the world that many of the developers and miners live in is very important. But he understands that there is a much bigger universe of investors, of banks, of institutional systems that play by different rules than rationality and code and logic. He understands many things that certain people in the ecosystem do not. Now, I don't agree with him necessarily, but I do think that he has influence that is dramatically underestimated because he's very charismatic for very powerful people. And if history is any lesson, it will tell us that can really that can change the game very quickly. That can change the who's on top very quickly. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up, and if you go to his Reddit account, which is Memory Dealers, so you can go to reddit.com/user/memory dealers, or just type in Roger Ver Reddit, you'll see this page. He is starting to talk about, in the last 14 hours ago, that if a few things happen, he will go all in on Bitcoin Cash. This guy owns a lot of Bitcoin. I mean, a lot. Tens of thousands of Bitcoin, maybe even more than that. And more importantly, he has the ability to influence people with deep pockets to go all in on Bitcoin Cash. But he needs a few things to happen before he does that. And he's been saying this for a while, but in this post, he really wants it integrated into the Bitcoin wallet. And he wants the mining to be much more profitable, meaning there needs to be more miners creating more blocks. And the reason that is important is so that more transactions that can happen, confirmations are faster. The network effect that actually makes Bitcoin Cash work the way it's supposed to work, he needs that to happen. But he says, after those things happen, two things happen, it'll be much easier for whales to feel safe about pushing the price of mining profitably around it. And there's a lot of discussion. You can go see the full comments if you want to. Obviously, so many people hate this. They resist it. They don't believe it's going to happen. I'm on the fence. I don't really care if Bitcoin Cash succeeds or doesn't succeed. I have no emotional ties. I don't believe in it one way or another. I just react to what happens on the macro markets. And if he is saying that I'm willing to go all in, I'm willing to bring more people in here, if these two things happen, to me and for anyone out there, that's what I would be watching. I would be watching the block size and the miners, how many miners are getting into Bitcoin Cash. I would be watching that Bitcoin.com wallet. And if he says, all right, this is happening, I'm gonna go in on Bitcoin Cash, that's a big deal. And I think that as we see BTC start to change its price, you're going to see Bitcoin Cash starting to get attention. I don't think the price is going to go up immediately, but I think they're going to start to get people say, how do we make this thing, how do we get the blocks mined, how do we make this profitable, how do we put real marketing and energy behind this. This doesn't mean go out and buy Bitcoin Cash. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are some macro forces that are still paying a lot of attention to Bitcoin Cash. And I think we've all kind of brushed this under the rug as, it didn't work, it leveled off, whatever. And realize these guys are still looking at it. It's still very powerful. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is this is just a really good article to read. Full credit to this guy, Jeremy Ross. I don't know Jeremy, but someone I know retweeted it. So his Twitter handle is JEBUS911, and he posted this Reddit post. Pardon the language on this, but how I effed up and turned 600 Bitcoin into 200 Bitcoin. So if you click on this link, so go check out Jeremy, go click on this link, or you can type in this article and it takes you to this page. This is a really, really good article. What this is basically saying is this guy bought 600 Bitcoins back in May or June. And it started going up, and he thought he was a genius because it was going up like, oh, I made 10 grand. Oh, I made 5 grand. This is awesome. And so he started getting into altcoins, right? As many of us do. And then he lists off every altcoin that he bought and the big losses that he had, about how he's just held everything. He hasn't sold. He hasn't had that mentality of stop losses or anything like that. And how painful it is to think about, man, if I just put this all in Bitcoin, I would be rich right now. This would be amazing. Or I would have doubled or tripled my money. And what I think is really good is just to get this perspective, right? I'm not saying look at this idiot. I'm not saying that at all, because I've done this. I'm sure many other people have done this. I think it's just helpful to see other people's experience and to learn from it. I think there's a little bit of inherent bias in this, because right now everything's so low, right? Next week everything could go 100% up, and this guy would be writing a blog post about how rich he is. So I think that you got to take it with a grain of salt. But look through this, look through the comments. There's actually some really helpful feedback in the comments. And if you can imagine yourself in this position, what I'll encourage everyone to do, and this is what I am going to get more disciplined about doing, is ask yourself, what will I do if these prices just continue? I mean, I publicly bought into Gollum 2 weeks ago, and it's gone down by 40%, 50%. I'm still holding it. I'm guilty of this, right? I'm right there with you. And now I have to make a decision. Do I sell it? Do I cut my losses? Do I hold it? What do I do? And I think if you are in this position, it's important to really get serious about that, and at least volunteer the idea that holding forever might not be the best strategy, or it might be the right move, because then you don't have to take the loss. And I can't make that decision for you. It's an individual case by case. I think having the stop loss tools and practicing that will be a helpful tool for you and help you, mitigate these kind of decisions. But I think a surprising number of people follow the same cycle of crypto. I mean, my family members are getting into this. They bought Bitcoin a month ago. I was like, you got to buy it. Help them set up Coinbase. They've doubled their money, and now they're like, well, how do I get even better returns? How do I get the returns you're getting? Because they see what I'm doing and the returns I'm getting. They're like, well, I want to get into Bittrex, and I want to learn how to do get this kind of stuff and ICOs and everything else. And I think most people, they get a Coinbase account or whatever, Gemini, Kraken, whatever. They buy in a couple coins, they see it go up, they start researching it, and they realize that the bigger money, quote unquote, bigger money, bigger returns is in altcoins. And so they start to buy in altcoins. And they think that everything's just going to keep going up because their first investment just kept going up. And then it starts to trickle down, and they're wondering, well, wait a second, why? I just need to buy more. I just need to hold because eventually it's going to go up. Crypto is unstoppable, blah, blah, blah. And I think a surprising number of people are that far along. And there's actually a very small number of people that are still just, I only buy Bitcoin, I only buy Ethereum, and that's it. I don't trade, because it's so tempting to get into it. And that's just we're human beings, right? We have dopamine. That is just, there's nothing more addictive than that. But anyway, go read this, because you will find this valuable. Everyone will find this valuable in some way. I do not have the answers for you. I can't tell you whether or not you should sell right now or buy more or hold or whatever. I don't know that answer because everything's individual. What I do know is that you should have a plan, and at least volunteer the idea of, if you sell something, where can you put that money next? Or why are you selling it, other than just not being terrified of it continuing to go down or whatever? Or what can you learn from this experience? So we'll stop there for now. Actually, I guess the last thing I would say is, some people, because this is just what everyone wants to know, what should you buy? What should go on? Okay, so the few things that I think are going to happen, I think that Bitcoin is going to continue to go up. I think that it's not going to go up quite as fast, but I do think it's going to go up for a couple hundred more before it like really dips, which I think it'll come back down considerably. I think that over the next week we're going to see some of these altcoin prices get a little bit more life, but I don't think that they're going to pop anytime soon. I don't think you're going to get a huge spike. Of all the ones that are on Bittrex, of all the ones I'm looking at, I think that Civic may be able to push through. I think that one may have like the fastest kind of recharge because it seems like it's the most nimble of all of them right now from a market standpoint. And there's like I've done a lot of analysis on this stuff. I'm just trying to break it down quick for you guys. And what was the other one? Yeah, I think that's probably the one that if I was going to buy something, which I'm not going to, but if you want to, check out Civic. I would also check out Quantum. That thing has had a lot of juice recently, and there's got to be a reason for that, right? And if it's getting depressed while it was going way up, once that force comes off of it, it may go back up. Again, I can't give a full recommendation in this because I'm not going to be buying anything today for sure, but if I was, that's what I'd do. I guess the other one, like I said before, I think Ethereum is going to jump 5-10% this week. I think that Ethereum is going to get some new legs, both with ICOs and with just market investors. Tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of the unfolding environments, like kind of the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Silicon Valley versus banks versus independent investors like yourself. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. So hope this was helpful. Everybody, this is Carter Thomas, Coin Mastery. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell so that you get notified for all the particular videos. Set up your stop loss orders. At least give it a shot. Go read these articles. Put together a plan, you guys. There is nothing more valuable than having a plan written down for weeks like this, because smart decisions are what make you money. All right? I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.